Unit 1, AP Human Geography by Bert the Jock 72 and De Eisenhower. Welcome to the show. What is human geography? Studying human geography is an integrated discipline that brings together the physical and human dimensions of the world in the study of peoples, places, and environments. It includes the Earth's surfaces and the processes, continuous actions taking place over time that shape it, and the relationships and connections between people, places, and environments. I'm not doing the exact same thing, guys. I swear. Alright. Psych! Location and place. Location is the position of the thing that takes up space. Absolute location, some examples would be, address and coordinates. So if I say I live in Ed and in the scrapyard, right? And that's an absolute location. I'm there. Or just a regular address. The relative location is where something is in relation to someone else. So you can say, I live 3 blocks east of Borg Tower. And then it's in relation to Borg Tower. Place describes physical and human characteristics of a location. So, an example, the city of Styx is a place on the coast with strangleweed and fishermen famous for its New Year's parade. Site is the characteristics of the actual or a human. Site is the characteristics of the actual or immediate location. It can include climate, soil, labor, or human structures. The site of Styx has many shanty towns, is built upon water, at the edge of the ocean, and is plagued by strangleweed. Situation is the location of a place in relation to other places. Darkley's boarding school for bad boys is situated a few miles away from Ninjago City. So, then there's space, pattern, and flow, right? So if you guys are curious about that, then space is the area between 2 places. So there's a bunch of that between the mainland and Chen's Island. I hate doing this project. I'm bored. I'm not gonna lie to you. Let's see. Pattern is how things are organized in a place. How the streets in Ninjago City are organized and what military, so all that stuff, right? Flow is a movement of goods, people, and info, and the effects of such movements on the political, cultural, and social aspects of society, right? So, think about, the golden weapons, whenever they fall in the wrong hands, right? So, that's flow, Or, what happens when, the scroll there, Jesus was found by Mara. Flow, right? So, distance decay, one of my top 5 favorite concepts from AP Hug, right? So, distance decay is basically saying that, when distance becomes greater, the interaction between 2 places becomes lower, and so does the flow of ideas and goods, right? So, think about Shadow Garmadon, right? He was, in the underworld, but then, it's farther away from Ninjago, so he has less impact, right? Time-space compression. How time to get between places has decreased by new innovations in transportation, right? So, in real life, it's it took 6 years to get to Africa by boat, right? But now you can just do it in 2 hours by plane. So, think about that. And Air Jitsu and Elemental Dragons all, provide sort of evidence of that. Theories of interaction, right? So environmental determinism. Basically, you're forced by your environment to do some, right? You just gotta thug it out. Boring. So it's when the Anaconda had to eat each other in their tomb, right? And then possibilism is when humans have the ability to make their own results using resources and adapt to their environment and succeed. So think about in season 3, when they were on the moon, on the asteroid, and they tried to get home, but all the ninjoids had already taken the spaceships, right? And so they had to make their own rocket ship, defying the odds and using their environment to succeed, right? And then sustainability is making sure that there's enough resources left in the environment for future generations to get by and pass it on. And so, like Lloyd in the temple in season 3, given the power, and then Drew is here for scale and region.
Yes, I'm here for scaling and region. Scale, pretty much, we're going to talk about maps here, is the size of the area being displayed and how large it is when you're comparing it to Earth. So there's a couple different kind of scales when you're thinking about, like, of course, global is the biggest, regional, national, local. It goes up and down. Global perspective is how a global product or idea adapts to local culture and the general effect local areas have on global goods. This one talks about Ninjago. You can talk about Ninjago.
I can talk about that one. So then, like, formal region is like the geographic area occupied by a group of people that shares one or more characteristics or traits in common with each other and must have borders, right? So you can think about like any of the cities, right? So Ninjago City or like the Cloud Kingdom or whatever, right? But then the border zone is where the border is and how like the cultures sort of like combine to form their own border culture, right? And then a functional region is a geographic area that is designed to function as one system, whether it's economic, cultural, social, or political. And, you know, nodes are like central points where the functions are coordinated and directed. So like City Hall, right? The metro areas, like Metro Boomin is urban area that is highly populated and it's less populated surrounding areas, right? So Ninjago City.
Pretty much.
And then perceptual vernacular region is like this geographic area that is agreed to exist, set apart by the people that live there because they decided to give it a name to unify themselves. So like think about like the Dead's End in the First Realm and Hunted, right? Because there, like it's not really like official like government town or whatever. They all just agree, oh, this is like Dead's End. Drew, do you think you'll cancel practice today?
Is it raining or is it just dark right now?
I thought it was raining, but I'm not sure anymore. I'll check.
Oh, I don't know. He might. Where did we finish this?
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about globalization, which globalization is the expansion of economic, cultural, and political processes on a global scale. It's pretty straightforward. It's just like the relationship between everything and everything around the globe. Wallerstein's world systems theory. This theory specifically talks about the relationship between like almost like production and consumption in a level, and it varies for different things, but basically there's the core countries, which are in the middle, and outside of that are the semi-periphery countries and the periphery countries on the furthest outside. The core is pretty much the industrialized dominant country that mainly takes like resources from the other periphery, sometimes semi-periphery. Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
periphery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll notice.
I think it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And these outside countries pretty much produce like the resources and kind of trade with the core countries in the first place. And you know, semi-periphery and periphery, you know, they serve similar purposes, but it's almost like a scale when you think about it between core and semi. But like I said, it just depends what kind of freaking material you're talking about and what industry you're in. Yeah.
Right.
Borg is core, people are semi-periphery, and ninjas are periphery.
Yes.
That's what that says. It's about a little bit of sustainability. Wait, maybe? Sustainability development that meets the needs of the present. Oh, here it is. Okay. Sustainability
yeah,
is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future. Pretty straightforward. You probably think of like conservation when you're talking about this. It's pretty straightforward. GIS. Mr. Bailey loves this one.
Here comes trouble.
GIS is just information systems that'll pretty much are used to organize information and create detailed maps to solve different issues or provide insight to those issues. You can say that part.
So this is it's like sort of like when like the Falcon or like the Zane makes maps with his eyes. Is that a Sports U notification I just got? Oh no, it's not. I just got a snap. My bad,
You wish.
guys.
You wish.
I wish it was a Sports U notification. But so yeah, GIS can show like topography, right? But like topography maps, topographical maps show like elevation and terrain details, right? And remote sensing maps are based off like satellite or airplane sensors, so like graph it all out. And then GPS stands for Global Positioning Systems, so those are like way up in the air, or satellite stuff. And then maps are representations of a geographic area put onto like a 2D or 3D surface.
Yeah. Pretty much. How many slides do we have total? Oh, we might have to start putting this in the overdrive.
Yeah.
But talk about some projections here, map projections. Mercator projection, it's all right. It's the directions are right, compass wise, but the land masses are skewed.
Right. It's like 6 out of 10, I'd say.
6 out of 10. Smash. Peter's projection, the size is correct in proportional. However, the shapes are just incorrect.
It's a shame.
It's a shame. Yeah, pass. Good hummus line or hummus line. It's perfect. It's very, very close to how it really looks, but the only problem is the oceans are broken up, so it looks like cheeks, or it looks like some kind of creature.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is supposed to be.
You could see like a bear there, you know, I would say. You see a bear?
I see a bear.
Yeah.
All right, pass. The Robinson projection is the GOAT, the classic. You know, it fixes these issues of broken oceans. It is still a little bit of distortion, a little skewed. However, it's probably the best we're gonna get. Definitely smash. Polar projection, blah blah blah. This one is just from top down. It's kind of in a spherical shape, but it's all right. It's all right from the poles. All right.
That was the end of Unit 1, so we're on to Unit 2 now.
Only a couple more.
So the ecumene is a portion of Earth's surface occupied by human settlements, so think about like cities and all that. Non-ecumene is not that. So factors that can influence population distribution are economic, cultural, historical, political, physical, climate, and agricultural. You guys should know what that means by now.
Yeah.
If not, get locked. Arithmetic density is just the total population divided by the land area, right? So the amount of dudes that fit into a certain amount of like land area, like usually square mile, but it can be like square kilometers, right? Physiological density is like the amount of like people per like arable land area, right? So it's not just for farmers; it's for like everybody, right? Because everybody like depends on crops that are grown, right?
Yes.
And so I think practice just got canceled because that was lightning, Drew.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Agricultural density is the total number of farmers divided by arable land area. That was thunder. And so this one is just about farmers because it's talking about like how many people who use the like arable land and like usable land to do their thing, right?
Mhm.
So
And like it kind of compares, like in places where they need more farmers for the land, they usually have like lower like technology levels. I think was the word LDC or there's
less developed countries.
Yes, yeah, that kind of thing. Less technology agriculturally, so they require more manual farming labor. We're gonna talk briefly in regions that have a lot of people in them. High population density, whether that's due to environmental, economic, or political factors. A lot of these places see themselves becoming more industrially and technologically advance just due to need. And a couple of main clusters you might find in East Asia, Southeast Asia, or Western Europe, which is win for the Asians. Do you want to talk about Malthusian theory?
All right, so Malthusian theory, as Drew just pointed out, argues that like population growth is exponential, right? And so it's like we're gonna outgrow our resource production one day, and so we need to like conserve like way more, or like some bad will happen, right? So, but he didn't think about what's about to happen next, which is agriculture increasement and Plan B.
Yes, combines and Plan B, because food production increases with more farming technology, and the population growth rate decreases with things like contraceptives and other kind of antinatalist tech.
You know what I noticed, Drew?
What?
It says levonorgestrel, right?
Yeah.
It almost says Lavin in there.
Mm.
So, could Lavin be a contraceptive?
No comment. Do we know this is still recording?
Yeah, it's there.
All right, good.
So the demographic transition model is a 5-stage model that predicts typical population growth patterns in modern countries, right? So you start off at stage 1 with high death rate, high birth rate, right, and not a lot of population growth because everybody's just dying and having lots of babies. But then eventually, the birth rate will stay stable, but the death rate goes down a little bit due to like medical advances, right? And so then you're in stage 2, and so population growth goes up, but then eventually stage 3. Birth rate and death rate go down a little bit, right? And then stage 4, both are pretty low, but birth is still staggering, like a little bit higher. And then nobody's stage 5 yet, but yeah. And then the ETM is just like it's like the other one, the epidemiological transition model or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right, but this is just for disease, right? So there's higher disease in stage 1, stage 2 is like a little bit lower, stage 3 getting fought off, right? And then stage 4 is like cancer and stuff only.
Yeah.
So.
Tight. And then easy buckets. I'll do this quick. Y'all know pronatalist, antinatalist. Pronatalists are just policies put in place by the government with the goal of increasing the population growth rate, increasing the population. These could be maternity/paternity leave, tax incentives, subsidized childcare, supplies, anything like that makes people want to get to business. Antinatalist, however, is the opposite, and it puts it's put in place by the government with the goal of decreasing the population growth. So this could be child limits, taxes on children, increased access to abortion and contraceptives. Next, quick brief overview of migration. Migration is the permanent or semi-permanent relocation of people from one place to another. There's many reasons that people migrate. Heck yeah.
Practice just got canceled.
Yeah, holy. I guess no race today. No, we'll see tomorrow. A couple push factors, which are factors that drive someone out of a region, might be war. Actually, I swear I wrote some of these. I guess not. Okay, but it could be like war, political oppression, genocide, environmental disasters, climate change, other things. However, a pull factor is something that brings someone towards a new region, which could be most like due to new economic policy they like, incentives, protection from the government, job opportunity, lots of great things. Now we're on to Unit 3, which is pretty much done here. Unit 3 is about culture, types of culture, a couple little pieces of the cultural landscape, some would say. Artifacts are physical pieces of culture, like clothes or housing. Mentifacts are ideas, beliefs, and values of a culture. And sociofacts kind of deal with society. They're the way a culture organizes itself and behaves. And then
I'll take this one.
And then, yeah.
All right, so ethnicity is a group of people that connect through ancestry and culture, right? So Think about like yeah, and then race is like a description of ancestry based entirely on physical features, right? So, there's white people, and we're only like sort of connected through. Well, we're called white people because we have like white skin, right? And then black people have like black skin, but really, like Middle Easterns are white, but their ethnicity is Middle Eastern through their ancestry and culture, right? So that's their ethnicity and race differential.
Good for them.
And so, Unit 3, so ethnocentrism is like comparing a culture to like one culture to another, and like trying to say, oh, like one is better, right? So that's a big bad, I'd say, But then cultural relativism is like the same thing, but in a better way. Like, oh, like let's work together or whatever. And then the cultural landscape is the human influence on the environment that can be seen through physical and cultural aspects on a region. So, like what aspect does like the state fair have on like the landscape around here? What have you?
And like talk about like culture in like a geographic sense, location sense. A cultural realm is an area of the world that shares similar cultural traits. So a couple examples of this would be like the Anglo-American area, which is like kind of us, and like Canada, stuff like that. Anglo kind of, when you see that, kind of think like white people. Latin America is another great example of this. When you see Latin America, these kind of realms, they share stuff like language, food, religion, architecture, stuff like that really drives the culture together. And speaking of driving people together, let's talk about centripetal forces, which are factors that bring the people within a nation together and provide stability. So like stuff that just really secures a nation's identity, really, is how I like to think about it. Centrifugal forces are factors, however, that divide the people within a nation and create instability. So, when you have differing like ethnic groups that have tensions, we see that a lot historically and in the modern day. But whether that be politics, religion, there's always something dividing people. And to sum up this unit a little bit, diffusion is the spread of culture through interaction or migration of people. Distance decay is the relationship between distance and interaction, so that kind of shows you the rate of spread of this. So like more distance is less interaction, which is really more straightforward than it sounds. And then finally,
a cultural arc. So that's the place of origin where like a culture spreads out from, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess you could say like Spain to all Latin America is like the cultural hearth. And yeah, essentially. So then Unit 5, so we're going to start off with agriculture, right? And so intensive agriculture is agriculture that like requires like a lot of labor and money to make it work, right? So basically, if you have to put a lot of work in it, if you have to put a lot of work into it, it's intensive because you're putting stuff into it, right? I'm not going to a whole lot out, but includes all those examples right there. Extensive, whereas less labor, right, to yield a lot of crops, right? So you can use like shifting cultivation, nomadic stuff, livestock, ranching, grain farming. So here's some rural settlement patterns, right? So you got clustered. So that's when like all the village people are like living close together and farming, like all tight, So dispersed is like when they live sort of far away, right? And they're isolated on their own, right? And then linear is when they're all lined up against the river. So meets and bounds are like when like people's plots of land are like irregular, right? Based on some factors. I don't know why, but they just are. And then township and range are when they're all like checkerboard patterns on the landscape, right? So you see from planes, and like they're all squares and stuff. Then long lots make into like rectangles. So if you see a rectangle where you're playing, it's a long lot farm, right? And so harsps are where things originate and spread out from. And so you can say that like the agricultural harsps are like Fertile Crescent,